White people complain about Black History Month because many feel that even being 3/5 of a person was going too far in recognizing a Black person's humanity.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Hold on to your family. Lay low.
In 1926, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, now the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, founded Negro History Week. They chose the 2nd of February because both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass had birthdays that week. So hopefully that clears up any misconceptions that Black people only did anything historical in the month of February. In the 1960s, as the Civil Rights Movement pushed Black rights and identity into greater awareness, Black History Week started to become Black History Month. In 1976, President Gerald Ford officially recognized it, saying that the public needed to, quote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. However, many whites feel things went a little too far, giving African Americans even 1 month. 60% of a person was now down to 1/12, or 8.3%. The refrain often heard is, what about White History Month? A white person says this because they feel threatened. It's not that they think Black people are going to take over. I mean, you never hear the same refrain for Native American Month, Asian American Month, or Hispanic Heritage Month. This response is only reserved for Black History Month. Why? Because it exposes the fact that the contributions of African Americans was being suppressed all along, and that the Black experience in American history is just as valid as those of anyone else. People in America have always been taught that American history is white history. It doesn't have to be said out loud or blatantly pointed out. However, white history in America is irrevocably connected to Black history in America because Black history in the United States starts with slavery. And slavery in the United States was started by white people. Early on, Black contributions would naturally be omitted because whites didn't want to accept the idea that Black people could do anything. If an enslaved person created something, then the white slave master would get the credit. Consider how white people responded to the 1619 Project, or the idea that Black people produced the wealth that created America. I mean, of course they did. It wasn't white people working the plantations, but white people get the credit. If it was good, it must be because of whites, and if it was bad and whites did it, then we're just going to ignore it or justify it as that's just the way things were. As time went on, the lie continued to the point that those writing the history books, whites, only wrote what they were taught. And what they were taught was so ingrained in their DNA that anything else sounded like Black people just making stuff up. Sure, there was the occasional Benjamin Banneker or George Washington Carver, but those were the exceptions. The rule was that Blacks were inferior. Again, it didn't have to be said out loud. It just made sense. The evidence was there because there was nothing in our history books to say otherwise. The other day, I was speaking to a Black educator who holds alternative classes after school just for her Black students. She told me that when she shared a list of inventions to her Black students, they were shocked. They couldn't believe that people who looked like them could have done so much. By the way, this is also the same response white people have when you show them this list. While whites will question the list as being fake, this educator told me that what she saw was students who sat up a little straighter and held their heads a little higher. There was a sense of pride. Imagine being told without anyone saying anything at all that people who look like you didn't do anything, and then find out that they actually did. Whites don't have to. However, now that the truth is being told, there is a sense of loss amongst whites. Everything they thought to be true really isn't. It's time we start demanding a true accounting of history instead of being lied to, instead of living in the myth of superiority and stop complaining that every month is not our month, when in fact, when it comes to American history, it needs to be everyone's month. This has been Locked In with Loki.